In this lesson, we're going to discuss intrusion detection systems and intrusion prevention systems. There are three types of IDS and IPS systems that we're going to discuss, namely network-based, host-based, and wireless. But before we talk about these three categories, let's take a look at the difference between an IDS and an IPS. At their core, an IDS and an IPS work very similarly. They're both going to be looking for bad things either on the network, on a host, or in the wireless domain, depending on which type of IDS and IPS you're dealing with. But the big difference is what they do when they find something suspicious. With an IDS, it's simply going to log or alert that it found something suspicious or malicious. But if you're using an IPS, it's going to log it, it's going to alert on it, and it's going to take some kind of action, like blocking the suspicious traffic, preventing that application from running, or kicking that wireless device right off your network. All right, with a basic understanding of what an IDS and IPS is, let's dig a little bit deeper into how they work. Let's start with Network Intrusion Detection Systems. Now, NIDS, or Network Intrusion Detection Systems, are responsible for detecting unauthorized network access or attacks. These systems are designed to verify, itemize, categorize, and report on a threat that's coming either from inside or outside of your network, based upon the placement of your NID sensor. Now, it's important to note that these devices do not stop an attack, but instead, they're programmed to react based on certain criteria and send an event or alert message to an administrator or cybersecurity analyst. That person will then be responsible for preventing or responding to the suspected attack. Remember, an IDS only detects, logs, reports, or alerts on what it finds. It will not prevent the bad thing from actually happening. There are three types of intrusion detection systems: network-based, or NIDS, host-based, or HIDS, and wireless, or WIDS. The difference in these three systems is their installation placement and the type of things they're actually searching for. Network-based IDSs are usually standalone devices that monitor the traffic coming into or out of a network. Most commonly, these are configured as a network appliance that's installed on a span port or mirrored port from your backbone switch. This way, it can see a copy of all of the network traffic. Generally, you're going to see network IDSs are configured to look for network attacks or indications of an upcoming attack. Something like a port scan, a suspicious content inside of a packet's payload, or traffic coming from or going to a suspicious IP or port. A host-based IDS, or HIDS, on the other hand, is going to be a piece of software installed on a server or endpoint. This is going to be configured to look at suspicious network traffic going to or from a single server or endpoint, namely the thing it's installed on, as well as any suspicious processes that are running or files that are being accessed. A wireless IDS, or WIDS, is going to be focused on the wireless network. A wireless IDS is focused on detecting attempts to cause a denial of service on the wireless network, such as flooding authentication requests, disassociation attacks, deauthentication attacks, and other things like that. Intrusion detection systems operate either using signature-based or anomaly-based detection algorithms. Signature-based IDSs analyze traffic based on defined signatures, and they can only recognize attacks based on the previously identified attacks that exist inside of its database. For this reason, signature-based IDSs require frequent updates to remain effective, and they are not considered effective against zero-day attacks because they've never seen those things before. Now, signature-based IDSs are further broken down into two types. We have pattern matching and stateful matching. Pattern matching is going to focus on a specific pattern of steps that are being recognized during an attack. Stateful matching is going to focus on a known baseline of a system and reporting any changes to that state. Pattern matching is more common in network-based IDSs and wireless IDSs, while stateful matching is more commonly used with host-based IDSs. Anomaly-based IDSs are going to analyze traffic and compare it to a normal baseline of traffic to determine whether there is a threat that's occurring. This is known as behavioral-based detection because it reports on anything outside of the normally expected behaviors. But this can also result in a higher rate of false positives. Now, there are 5 types of anomaly-based detection systems. We have statistical, protocol, traffic, rule or heuristic, and application-based. Each of these types seek to identify traffic that appears to be outside of a normal pattern. For example, if the device is a traffic anomaly-based device, it's going to track the historical traffic patterns on that network, and it's going to report when those patterns are too high or too low in comparison to the normal baseline. In addition to IDSs, we also have IPSs. These devices not only scan the traffic to look for malicious activity like an IDS does, but they also take actions to stop that bad activity. When you're using an IPS though, you have to be careful to keep false positives and false negatives down to a minimum. Otherwise, malicious traffic may not be blocked when it should be, or normal activity might get blocked when it shouldn't be. For a network IPS, we want to have the device placed right near the border of the network, right behind your firewall, and that way we have all the traffic funneling right through it so it can stop and block things as needed. A NIDS, on the other hand, should be attached through a mirrored port off the backbone switch. This way, it can analyze all the traffic in a passive manner. In some networks, both NIPS and NIDS will be used, and in large networks, there may be several of each device placed in strategic locations around your network. Now, host-based intrusion prevention systems and wireless intrusion prevention systems work just like the HIDS and WIDS that we talked about earlier, but the big difference is they have the ability of responding to that suspicious activity that's being detected. For example, let's say you're using a host-based intrusion prevention system, and now you try to install a program that's going to try to change or overwrite a critical system file. That HIPS could detect that and block you from being able to do that. Similarly, if you're using a wireless IPS and somebody tries to send a deauthentication frame to clients on the network, it could detect that and refuse to forward those frames to the intended targets, and then, instead, it might take the action of disconnecting the person who sent them. Remember, with an IDS, you can only detect, but with an IPS, you can detect and react.